Why was she the only one not sweating? 5:30 a.m. Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. The Pacific horizon still held onto darkness like a secret. Salt and diesel hung in the air, thick enough to taste. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell finished her 200th push-up. Her muscles screamed. Her breathing stayed measured, controlled, perfect. She refused to quit. 30 Navy SEALs moved around her in perfect synchronization. Up, down, up, down. The rhythm of elite warriors who'd earned their trident through unimaginable hell. Men who'd survived the crucible that broke 80% of candidates. Men who'd proven themselves in ways most humans couldn't comprehend. And one woman who'd done exactly the same. Sarah Mitchell stood 53 in boots, weighing 125 pounds, the smallest operator on SEAL Team 5 by 70 pounds. At 26, she'd been a SEAL for exactly 2 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Some mornings still felt surreal. Most mornings she made absolutely certain nobody questioned her presence. Time, Master Chief Robert Turner's voice cut through dawn like a blade. Recovery stretch, move. Sarah rose smoothly. No tremor visible despite the 200 push-ups. She'd learned years ago that showing weakness invited questions. Questions invited doubt, and doubt got people killed. The team stretched in silence, professional, focused. This was her family now. These men had watched her survive Hell Week, had witnessed her earn every single inch of respect. Then the buses arrived. But what rolled through those gates would test everything she'd built, would threaten to destroy her career in just 2 weeks. 3 olive-drab transport vehicles rumbled through the main gate, United States Marine Corps insignia on their doors. Sarah felt the atmosphere shift immediately. SEALs and Marines shared a complicated relationship, mutual respect mixed with rivalry, each branch convinced of their superiority. The buses discharged their cargo, 6 Marines, all male, carrying that distinctive force recon swagger, the confidence that came from jumping out of perfectly good aircraft and calling it Tuesday. Sarah recognized the type instantly. She'd grown up around men like this. Her father had been one. The lead Marine stepped forward, 6'2", maybe 195 pounds, shoulders like a linebacker, jaw carved from granite, Staff Sergeant stripes on his sleeve. His name tape read Bennett. Master Chief Turner approached, hand extended. Master Chief Robert Turner, welcome to Coronado. Bennett shook firmly, his assessing eyes sweeping the assembled SEALs like a general surveying troops. His gaze lingered on Sarah for exactly 2 seconds. His lip curled. What he said next would ignite a confrontation that would echo across the entire base, would force Sarah to risk everything she'd worked for. Staff Sergeant Marcus Bennett, Force Recon. His voice carried parade ground volume. My team's here for the joint training exercise, 2 weeks of cross-branch integration. Outstanding, Turner gestured toward the SEALs. My team's ready to work with you. We'll be running combined ops, sharing tactics, building cohesion. Bennett's eyes found Sarah again. Something flickered across his face. Disbelief, contempt, amusement. All of your team. The question dripped skepticism. Sarah knew what was coming. She'd heard variations her entire career. At basic, at Bud S during every training, evolution, and deployment workup. The doubt never got old because it never went away. It just got louder. Bennett turned to his Marines, raising his voice another notch. Looks like naval special warfare has updated their standards, boys. A theatrical pause. Wonder if they updated their coffee-making requirements too. Laughter from the Marines, uncertain silence from the SEALs. Sarah felt 30 pairs of eyes slide toward her. She didn't move, didn't react, maintained her position of attention, gaze fixed on the middle distance. A technique her father had taught her at 12 years old. When they try to get under your skin, baby girl, you become stone, you become water, you become air, anything but what they expect. Bennett walked closer, boots crunching on gravel. He stopped 3 feet from Sarah, close enough to invade personal space, far enough to maintain plausible deniability. "What's your rate, sailor?" Not lieutenant, not ma'am, just the deliberate disrespect of ignoring her rank entirely. Sarah met his eyes, level, calm. "Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, SEAL Team 5. "SEAL," he dragged the word out, turned it into something obscene. "And how long you been playing SEAL, Lieutenant?" "2 years, Staff Sergeant." 2 whole years. Bennett whistled low, shook his head. "Boys, we got ourselves a seasoned veteran here. 2 years. He turned back to her, smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't friendly at all. "Tell me, Lieutenant, they make Bud-S easier for you. Lower that obstacle wall. Maybe let you skip the cold water evolution." Sarah's jaw tightened, the only visible reaction she allowed herself. Same course, same standards, same hell week. "Sure," Bennett's smile widened. "I believe that, I really do." He raised his voice again, addressing the entire formation. "Now, I'm sure the Navy gave you the exact same standards as the men. Exact same. No political pressure, no diversity quotas, no senators making phone calls." He leaned in close enough that only Sarah and the nearest SEALs could hear his next words. "Try not to cry, Princess. It's only 2 weeks." The words hit like a physical blow. Sarah's hands curled into fists at her sides. Every muscle screamed to move, to respond, to wipe that smug expression off his face. But she was stone, she was water, she was air. "Yes, Staff Sergeant," flat, emotionless, giving him nothing. Bennett held her gaze 3 more seconds. Then he turned, dismissing her entirely, and addressed Master Chief Turner. "My Marines are ready to train, Master Chief, assuming we're actually here to train and not babysit." Turner's face had gone carefully blank, the kind of blank that came from 32 years of military service and learning when to fight your battles. "We're here to train, Staff Sergeant. Let's get your team squared away." The formation broke, Marines moving toward barracks, SEALs dispersing. Sarah held her position until everyone else had moved. Then she walked, not toward the barracks but toward the beach. She needed to run. What Sarah didn't know was that Bennett's words had just set in motion a chain of events that would culminate in the most dangerous night of her life. A night that would prove whether warriors were born or made. How long can you ignore someone trying to break you? The next 12 days unfolded like a masterclass in psychological warfare. Bennett and his Marines integrated into every training evolution, every briefing, every meal, and at every opportunity the comments came. Sarah was at rifle qualifications, 40 rounds at 300 yards, iron sights, wind gusting at 15 knots from the northwest. She called her shots, controlled her breathing, squeezed the trigger between heartbeats like her father had taught her before she could write in cursive. 40 rounds, 40 hits, dead center mass, perfect score. Bennett watched from the observation booth, his voice carried through the open window. "Must be nice having adjustable targets. Bet they set hers 10 yards closer." Laughter from his Marines. Sarah ejected her magazine, cleared her weapon, said nothing. But she was keeping score. And Bennett had no idea what was building inside her, or what Master Chief Turner was planning. Full gear, 50-pound ruck, weapons, 2-mile ocean swim in 62-degree water. The cold didn't bother Sarah. She'd grown up swimming in these waters, had learned to love the Pacific's icy embrace during Hell Week. The cold was familiar, almost comforting. She finished the swim 8 minutes ahead of the next fastest time, emerged from the surf breathing hard but controlled. No shivering, no hypothermia symptoms. Bennett was waiting on the beach. Lucky current today, probably had it easier being so small, less body mass to drag. Sarah wrung water from her hair. "Yes, Staff Sergeant." The pattern continued, day after day, evolution after evolution. Bennett found new ways to dismiss her performance, to question her capability, to plant seeds of doubt in every space she occupied. Live fire exercises, close quarters combat, advanced tactics. Sarah executed flawlessly. Bennett found flaws. Technique looks rehearsed. Wonder how she'd do under real pressure. The other SEALs began to notice, started to bristle at Bennett's constant commentary, but Sarah kept her head down, kept performing, kept being stone and water and air. What was she protecting? Her career, her pride, or something deeper she couldn't name? On day 10, Master Chief Turner called her to his office. The old wooden door, the smell of coffee and old memories. Sarah knocked twice. "Enter." Turner sat behind his desk, file folder open in front of him. He looked tired, not physically tired, the kind of tired that came from watching something unfold and knowing you couldn't stop it yet. "Close the door, Mitchell." She did, stood at attention. "Sit down." Sarah sat. Turner studied her for a long moment. His eyes carried weight, history, understanding. "Your father and I served together for 11 years. Sarah blinked. Turner had never mentioned this, not once in 2 years. "We went through Bud S in the same class, deployed together 6 times. He was the best operator I ever worked with." Turner's voice carried something Sarah rarely heard, emotion. "He saved my life in Fallujah, took a round mint for me, spent 3 months recovering, never complained once." Sarah's throat tightened. Her father, always her father, always the shadow she lived in and the light she followed. "He talked about you constantly. His daughter, smart as hell, tougher than nails, heart bigger than most men twice her size." Turner leaned forward. "He told me something 3 weeks before he died." The air in the room felt heavy. Sarah couldn't speak. "He said if anything happened to him, if you ever made it to the teams, I should watch over you. Not coddle you, not protect you, just watch. Make sure you got the same treatment, same standards, same respect." "I've been watching, Mitchell, and what I see is a warrior getting exactly what your father predicted. Constant testing, endless doubt, men who can't accept that capability has no gender." Sarah found her voice. "I can handle it, Master Chief." "I know you can, that's not why you're here." Turner opened the file. "Bennett's team is running a training exercise tomorrow night. Full combat scenario in the kill house. 6 Marines against simulated hostiles. Command wants SEAL observers. I'm sending you." Sarah's pulse quickened. "Why me?" "Because you need to see something." Turner's expression was unreadable. "And because what happens tomorrow night is going to change everything." He dismissed her without explanation. Sarah left his office with more questions than answers. What was Turner planning? What did he know that she didn't? That night she couldn't sleep. Lay in her rack staring at the ceiling, running scenarios in her head. The kill house, 6 Marines, simulated combat. What could possibly go wrong that would change everything? The answer came the next night, and it came in a way nobody expected. What happens when 6 Marines walk into a trap? Saturday, 2100 hours. The kill house stood dark against the Coronado night sky, a sprawling maze of rooms and corridors built to simulate urban combat, close quarters, low light, high stress, the kind of environment where training became as real as deployment. Sarah arrived early, positioned herself in the observation room with 3 other SEALs. Banks of monitors showed different angles of the kill house interior, green-tinted night vision, thermal overlays, audio feeds from each Marine's comm system. Bennett's team assembled outside. 6 men, full tactical gear, live simunition rounds, paint-marking bullets that hurt like hell but didn't kill. This was as real as training got without actual bullets. The mission brief was simple: hostage rescue, unknown number of hostiles, clear the structure, extract the VIP. Standard operation they'd all run 100 times. But something felt wrong. Sarah couldn't identify it, just an instinct, a whisper in her gut that said, "Pay attention, this matters." Bennett's voice crackled over the comms. "Alpha team ready. Execute on my mark." The Marines breached. Textbook entry. Two-man teams flowing through doorways with practiced precision. Sarah watched the monitors, tracking their movement, their formations, their communication. They were good, very good. First room cleared, second room cleared, third room. The ambush hit like a sledgehammer. Simulated gunfire erupted from 3 directions simultaneously. The hostiles, instructors playing the role, had positioned perfectly, overlapping fields of fire, no cover, no escape. Bennett's team took immediate casualties. 4 Marines killed in the first 5 seconds, paint rounds splattering their vests. Training protocol said once you're hit, you're out. You drop, you wait. That left Bennett and 1 other Marine, Corporal Hayes, pinned in a hallway, 3 hostiles with superior position. The scenario was designed to be unwinnable at this point. The training cadre expected surrender or extraction. Bennett didn't surrender. "Hayes, suppressing fire on my mark. We're pushing through." Sarah leaned forward. That was suicide. The positioning was impossible, the angles too tight. Pushing forward meant certain failure. Unless she saw it in the same moment Bennett moved, a blind spot in the hostile positioning. Narrow, maybe 18 inches, exploitable only if you were willing to make yourself incredibly small, to move with perfect timing, to trust your partner absolutely. Bennett and Hayes moved as one, suppressing fire, movement. They squeezed through the gap. It should have failed, should have gotten them both killed. It didn't. They cleared the hallway, reached the hostage room. The simulation ended. 4 minutes, 6 Marines, 2 survivors, mission accomplished. Sarah expected celebration, expected the Marines to be pleased. What she saw instead made her blood run cold. Bennett ripped off his helmet the moment they exited the kill house. His face was sheet white, not from fear, from rage. That was a setup. His voice carried across the training area. That ambush configuration doesn't exist in real combat. Someone rigged this to make us fail. The senior instructor, a grizzled SEAL named Collins, stepped forward. The scenario was within parameters, staff sergeant. Random hostile positioning, standard doctrine. Bullshit, Bennett pointed at the kill house. 3-way crossfire in a 12-foot hallway, textbook execution trap. You wanted us to quit, wanted Marines to look incompetent in front of your boys. The accusation hung in the night air, ugly, dangerous. Sarah's mind raced. She'd watched the whole evolution. The positioning was aggressive but not impossible. Bennett and Hayes had proven that. So why was Bennett claiming setup? Then she understood. Bennett wasn't angry about the scenario. He was angry that he'd almost failed. That only extreme skill and luck had saved his team. That he'd been pushed to his absolute limit and barely survived. He was angry that he'd been tested the same way he'd been testing Sarah for 2 weeks. Collins kept his voice level. "Your team completed the mission, Staff Sergeant. That's what matters." "My team got slaughtered, 4 casualties for 1 hostage. That's a failure where I come from." Bennett turned to his Marines. "Pack it up. We're done for tonight." The Marines dispersed, silent, unhappy. Sarah watched them go, something nagging at her mind, something about Bennett's reaction, about the way he'd moved in that hallway, about the split-second decision-making under impossible pressure. She'd seen that before, recognized it. Her father had moved the same way, had the same instinct for finding solutions where none existed, had the same absolute refusal to quit even when quitting made sense. Master Chief Turner appeared beside her. "What did you see, Mitchell?" Sarah chose her words carefully. "I saw a team that refused to fail, even when failure was the logical outcome. And I saw Bennett do something extraordinary under pressure, then get angry because it wasn't perfect." Turner nodded slowly. "Your father had the same problem, could never accept that survival was victory, always pushed for flawless execution even in chaos. Sarah turned to face him. "What's happening here, Master Chief? This feels like more than training." "Tomorrow night," Turner said quietly. "Same scenario, but this time you're running it solo against the same hostile configuration." Sarah's heart stopped. Solo. One operator, same mission, same setup, same stakes. Turner's expression was unreadable. Command wants to see how a SEAL handles what barely survived 6 Marines. That's insane. The scenario's designed for a team. "I know," Turner met her eyes, "but you need to understand something, Mitchell. What happens tomorrow night isn't about proving you can do the impossible. It's about proving something to Bennett and to yourself." He walked away, leaving Sarah standing in the darkness, staring at the kill house. Tomorrow night she'd face the same scenario that had nearly destroyed Bennett's entire team. One operator, 6 Marines worth of mission, impossible odds. And somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "This is exactly what you've been training for. This is exactly what your father prepared you for." But there was one thing Sarah didn't know yet. One variable nobody had accounted for. Because when she entered that kill house alone, Bennett would be watching. And what he saw would change everything he thought he knew about capability, about strength, about what made a warrior. Can one person do what 6 could barely accomplish? Sunday night, 2100 hours. Sarah stood outside the kill house in full tactical gear, alone. The night air felt different than yesterday, heavier, charged with something she couldn't name. Word had spread. What started as a routine solo training evolution had become something else, something bigger. Every SEAL on base seemed to have found a reason to be nearby. Every Marine, too. The observation room was packed, spilling into the hallway. Men who should have been off-duty standing in the darkness, waiting to see if she'd fail. Bennett stood in the front row of the observation room, arms crossed, face impassive. His Marines flanked him, silent, watching. Master Chief Turner approached Sarah, handed her the mission brief without ceremony. Same scenario as yesterday, hostage rescue, unknown hostiles, live simunition, you know the drill. Sarah checked her weapon, HK-416, 30 rounds. She'd loaded the magazine herself, counted every round twice, not because she didn't trust supply, because focus mattered, details mattered. "Mitchell," Turner's voice dropped low, only for her. "Your father ran this exact scenario in 2010. Different setup, same concept. Solo operator, impossible odds." Sarah looked up sharply. Turner's face gave nothing away. "He failed the first 2 times, killed in action both runs. Third time," Turner paused. "Third time he did something nobody had ever seen, created a technique that became doctrine, that's still taught to this day." "What technique?" "You'll figure it out if you're half the operator he was." Turner stepped back. "You're clear to execute on your mark." Sarah faced the kill house. Behind her, 30 men watched in silence. Ahead, an impossible mission waited in darkness. She thought about her father, about the last conversation they'd ever had. She was 13. He was packing for deployment. Afghanistan. He'd looked at her with those steady eyes and said something she'd never forgotten. "Baby girl, when you can't win with strength, you win with time. When you can't win with time, you win with angles. When you can't win with angles," he'd smiled, "you change the game entirely." Sarah keyed her comm, Alpha 1 executing. She breached. The first room erupted exactly as expected. Simulated gunfire from 2 positions. Sarah didn't engage, didn't try to fight. She moved, fast, through the doorway into cover, assessing angles in microseconds. 2 hostiles, overlapping fields of fire, standard defensive positioning. She threw a flashbang, not at the hostiles, at the wall behind them. The simulation grenade detonated, light and sound reflecting off metal surfaces, disorienting, creating chaos. Sarah moved during the flash, not toward the hostiles, away, through a side door they weren't covering, flanking through an adjacent room. In the observation room, someone whispered, "She's running." Bennett's jaw tightened. But Sarah wasn't running. She was repositioning, using the kill house's layout against the predetermined hostile positions, thinking 3 moves ahead. She came out behind the first hostile position. 2 quick shots, both targets marked, paint splattering their backs. Killed from a direction they'd never expected. Room cleared. Sarah pressed forward, heart rate controlled, breathing measured, her father's voice in her head. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. The hallway ambush waited ahead. The same impossible crossfire that had nearly destroyed Bennett's team. 3 hostiles, perfect positioning, no cover, no escape. Or so it seemed. Sarah stopped at the hallway entrance, didn't push in, didn't try Bennett's desperate charge. She studied the angles, the positions, the shadows. Then she did something nobody expected. She shot out the lights. The hallway plunged into darkness. The hostiles had night vision, so did Sarah, but night vision had a weakness. Bloom, too much light and the system whited out, too little and it struggled. Sarah created too little. She moved into the hallway in complete darkness. The hostiles could barely see her. Their predetermined positions became liabilities. They couldn't effectively engage a target they couldn't track. Sarah moved like water, flowing through the space, close to walls, using the darkness. Her shots came from shifting positions. The hostiles never had a steady target. 3 targets down in 11 seconds. In the observation room, absolute silence. Sarah continued. 1 more room, the hostage chamber, the final obstacle. This was where scenarios typically ended one of 2 ways: successful rescue or dead operator. She approached the door, listened, counted footsteps, 2 guards, standard protocol, 1 near the door, 1 with the hostage, overlapping responsibilities. Standard protocol had a weakness. Sarah keyed her comm, creating static, deliberate, making noise, drawing attention to the door. The guard inside would expect a breach, would preposition, would wait for the door to open and the target to appear. Sarah didn't open the door. She breached through the adjacent wall, a shooting port used for observation, barely 12 inches wide. Sarah was small enough to see the angles, to line up shots through the narrow opening. 2 shots, 2 kills. The guards never saw it coming. She entered through the actual door. Secure the hostage. Mission complete. Total time, 4 minutes 32 seconds. 0 casualties. 1 operator against a scenario designed to kill 6. Sarah exited the kill house, removed her helmet. Her hands were steady. No adrenaline shakes, no visible emotion, just another training evolution, just another mission accomplished. But the silence that greeted her was deafening. 30 men stared, some SEALs, some Marines, all of them processing what they'd just witnessed, not just mission success, not just survival. Perfection. Master Chief Turner stepped forward. His face betrayed nothing but his eyes. His eyes carried something Sarah had never seen before: pride and recognition. Mitchell, debrief in 10 minutes. He turned and walked away. The crowd began to disperse. Slowly, men talking in low voices, replaying what they'd seen, trying to understand how 1 operator had made the impossible look routine. Bennett didn't move. He stood in the observation room doorway, staring at Sarah. His expression had changed. The contempt was gone. The dismissive arrogance had evaporated. What remained was something more complex, more unsettling. Respect, reluctant, uncomfortable but undeniable. Sarah met his eyes, didn't smile, didn't gloat, just held his gaze for 3 seconds. Then she walked past him toward the debriefing room. Behind her, she heard one of Bennett's Marines whisper, "How the hell did she do that?" Bennett's response was quiet, measured, and it carried weight. "I don't know, but I want to learn." What Sarah didn't realize was that her performance had just shifted something fundamental, had cracked open a door Bennett didn't know existed, a door to understanding that capability transcended every assumption he'd built his career on. And in 3 days that crack would split wide open, because the real test wasn't the kill house. The real test was coming, and it would happen in a place where simulated rounds became real bullets, where training became combat, where Sarah Mitchell would save Marcus Bennett's life. When does training become survival? Tuesday morning, 600 hours, standard briefing room, but nothing about this briefing was standard. The walls were covered with maps, satellite imagery, intelligence reports marked with classification stamps Sarah had only seen in combat zones. Master Chief Turner stood at the front. Beside him, a man in civilian clothes. No name tag, no rank insignia. The kind of anonymity that screamed high-level operations. Sarah sat with the SEALs. Bennett and his Marines occupied the opposite side. The previous night's kill house evolution hung between them like smoke, unspoken, unprocessed. "Gentlemen, Miss Mitchell," the civilian spoke without introduction. "What I'm about to brief is classified top secret. Nothing leaves this room." He clicked a remote. The main screen illuminated. Satellite image of a compound, arid terrain, Middle East architecture. Yemen, 50 clicks outside Sana'a. Intelligence indicates a high-value target is holding 2 American contractors, both civilian, both critical to ongoing operations in the region. Sarah's pulse quickened. This wasn't training. This was real world. JSOC wants a rescue mission. Fast, clean, minimal footprint. The civilian gestured to the satellite images. The compound is defended by an estimated 12 to 15 hostiles. Unknown armament, unknown capabilities, unknown response time for reinforcement. He paused, let that sink in. "We're sending a joint team, 3 SEALs, 3 Marines. You'll insert via helicopter at 200 local time. 12-hour window for extraction. After that, the political situation makes recovery impossible." Sarah glanced at Turner. His face was carved from stone. This was the moment he'd been building toward, the reason for 2 weeks of integration, the purpose behind every training evolution. The civilian continued. "Team lead is Master Chief Turner, second in command." He looked directly at Sarah. "Lieutenant Mitchell, you'll be running tactical planning and primary breach." Bennett shifted in his seat. Sarah felt his eyes on her, burning with questions. "Force recon element will provide security and extraction support. Staff Sergeant Bennett, you'll coordinate overwatch and defensive positions." The briefing lasted 45 minutes. Details, contingencies, rules of engagement, every piece of information that might keep them alive in a hostile country with zero support and no backup. When it ended, Turner dismissed everyone except Sarah and Bennett. The 3 of them stood in the empty briefing room, maps still glowing on screens, the weight of what was coming settling into their bones. "Mitchell, you're running the breach because of what you did in the kill house." Turner's voice was matter of fact. "That wasn't luck. That was doctrine. You saw angles nobody else saw, thought 3 steps ahead, made impossible shots in narrow windows." He turned to Bennett. "Staff Sergeant, your team will be responsible for keeping us alive during extraction. Sarah gets us in, you get us out, clear." "Crystal, Master Chief." But Bennett's voice carried something new, not hostility, not resentment, something closer to uncertainty. Turner left them alone. The door clicked shut. Silence filled the space where orders had been. Bennett spoke first. "2 weeks ago, I would have said putting you on point was suicide, would have said you'd get people killed." Sarah waited, let him finish. "After yesterday," he shook his head, "I don't know what to think anymore." "You think capability has prerequisites." Sarah's voice was steady. "You think warriors look a certain way, move a certain way, fit a certain profile. Yeah, I did. My father was a SEAL, died in Afghanistan when I was 13. Sarah met Bennett's eyes. He taught me something before he left for that last deployment. He said strength isn't about mass or height or gender. It's about seeing what others miss, thinking when others react, refusing to quit when quitting makes sense. Bennett absorbed this, processing, recalibrating. The technique you used, shooting out the lights, breaching through the observation port, that's not standard doctrine. It's called Phantom Protocol. My father developed it, taught it to me before I could drive. It's about using your size as an advantage, seeing angles nobody else considers, making yourself a ghost when everyone expects a hammer. Will you teach it to my team? The question surprised Sarah, genuinely surprised her. You want me to teach Marines? I want to learn from someone who's better than me. Bennett's voice carried no ego, no pretense, just honesty. Yesterday you did something I couldn't do, made it look easy. I'd be an idiot not to want to understand how. Sarah studied him. This was the man who'd told her not to cry, who dismissed her as a diversity quota, who'd spent 2 weeks trying to break her spirit. But people could change, could learn, could recognize when their assumptions were wrong. After Yemen, Sarah said, if we all make it back, I'll teach you everything my father taught me. Deal. They shook hands, not as adversaries, not as rivals, as warriors who recognized capability when they saw it. The mission brief was in 72 hours, 3 days to train, to integrate, to become a team. Sarah spent those 3 days teaching Bennett and his Marines the basics of Phantom Protocol, not the full system, not the advanced techniques, just the fundamentals, how to see angles, how to use size as advantage, how to think beyond standard doctrine. Bennett learned faster than she expected. He had the mind for it, the tactical flexibility, the willingness to abandon ego for effectiveness. By the time they boarded the C-130 for Yemen, the team had transformed. SEALs and Marines moving as one unit, communicating without words, trusting absolutely. 72 hours later, Sarah stood in the cargo bay of a helicopter, watching the Yemen desert rush past in darkness. Bennett sat across from her, 5 other operators surrounding them, all of them silent, all of them focused. What none of them knew was that the intelligence was wrong. The compound wasn't defended by 12 to 15 hostiles. It was defended by 28, with reinforcements 15 minutes away. The mission was about to become a nightmare, and Sarah Mitchell's Phantom Protocol was about to be tested in the only arena that truly mattered. Real combat, real bullets, real stakes. Where mistakes didn't mean paint rounds and reset, where mistakes meant death. What's the difference between training and war? Blood. Sarah's first thought as the helicopter touched down in Yemen wasn't about the mission, wasn't about tactics or protocols or objectives. It was about her father's voice. 13 years old, sitting on their back porch, him packing gear for Afghanistan. Baby girl, combat isn't like the movies. It's not heroic. It's not glorious. It's brutal and ugly, and it breaks pieces of you that never fully heal. She'd asked him why he kept going back. He'd looked at her with those steady eyes and said, because someone has to. Because there are people who need saving and work that needs doing. And warriors don't choose the easy path. We choose the necessary one. Now standing in Yemen darkness, Sarah understood. The compound rose from the desert like a fortress, 2-story structure, mud brick walls, defensive positions visible even in thermal imaging. Master Chief Turner signaled. The team moved, 3 SEALs, 3 Marines, 6 operators against an unknown number of hostiles holding 2 American lives. Sarah took point. Bennett and his Marines established overwatch positions, textbook approach, professional, controlled. The first indication something was wrong came from thermal. Count 12 thermal signatures, whispered Petty Officer Jackson, their tech specialist. But movement patterns suggest more, maybe double. Turner's voice crackled in Sarah's earpiece. Mitchell, your assessment. Sarah studied the compound through night vision, watched the patrol patterns, the defensive spacing, the way guards moved with too much confidence for a small force. They're expecting us, Master Chief, or expecting someone. This isn't a holding operation. This is a trap. Can you breach? Could she? The approach angles were impossible. 3 overlapping fields of fire. No blind spots. No weakness in their positioning. Standard doctrine said abort. Call for backup. Wait for better intelligence. But there was no backup. No better intelligence. And 2 Americans were counting on someone to come. Sarah's father's voice. When you can't win with strength, you win with time. When you can't win with time, you win with angles. When you can't win with angles, you change the game entirely. I can breach, but I need Bennett's team to create chaos, maximum noise, make them think the assault is coming from the north wall. Negative, Turner responded. That puts Bennett in direct fire, suicide. It's the only way in, Master Chief. Silence. Sarah could feel Turner calculating. Risk versus mission, lives versus objectives, the mathematics that haunted every commander who'd ever sent people into combat. Bennett's voice cut through. We'll do it. Give us 90 seconds to position, then light them up. Staff Sergeant. Master Chief, she's right, it's the only play. My Marines know the risks. Turner paused, then execute on Mitchell's mark, 90 seconds. Sarah counted, watched Bennett's team maneuver into position. Marines who'd mocked her 2 weeks ago now trusting her tactical assessment with their lives. The irony wasn't lost on her. 60 seconds. She moved into breach position. The compound's south wall. Minimal defenses because they expected assault from the north. Expected conventional thinking. 30 seconds. Sarah's hands were steady on her weapon, heart rate controlled, breathing measured. Her father had taught her this. How to find calm in chaos. How to think when everyone else was reacting. Mark, she whispered. Bennett's team opened fire, not to kill, to create noise, chaos, drawing every hostile's attention north, making them believe the assault was coming from the obvious direction. Sarah breached through the south wall, silent, unseen, a ghost moving through their blind spot. The first guard never knew she was there. 2 suppressed shots, center mass, he dropped without sound. But the compound was larger than intelligence suggested. More rooms, more hostiles, and the 2 Americans weren't in the expected location. Sarah moved through corridors, clearing rooms, finding nothing. Her father's phantom protocol turning her into something the hostiles couldn't track, couldn't predict, couldn't stop. Then she heard voices, English, desperate, terrified. The hostage room. But the door was reinforced, the approach impossible. 4 guards, heavy weapons, overlapping positions. Sarah could hear Bennett's team taking fire. Heavy fire, more than expected. The situation was degrading fast. She keyed her comm. Hostages located, multiple guards, approach impossible with current positioning. Pull back, Turner ordered. We'll regroup and... Negative, Master Chief. If we pull back, they'll execute the hostages. Move them. We lose our window. Mitchell, that's suicide. It's necessary. Sarah thought about her father, about the last mission that took his life, about the choice he'd made to stay and fight when pulling back was the logical option, about how warriors don't choose the easy path, they choose the necessary one. I'm going in. What Sarah did next would be analyzed in after-action reports for years, would be studied, debated, added to tactical doctrine. She created a diversion using the compound's own structure, set a small charge on a support beam 2 rooms away, timed detonation. When it blew, the sound and structural shake drew 3 of the 4 guards away. That left one guard with the hostages. Sarah breached through a ventilation shaft, 18 inches wide, barely enough space for her small frame, definitely not enough for anyone Bennett's size. She dropped into the hostage room behind the remaining guard, one shot, suppressed, silent. The two Americans looked at her with disbelieving eyes, exhausted, terrified, not quite believing they were seeing rescue. "Move," Sarah whispered. "Fast, quiet, stay behind me." But extraction was the nightmare part. Getting in was one thing. Getting out with two noncombatants through a compound full of hostile forces was something else entirely. Sarah moved them through the south corridor, the route she'd breached, but the hostiles had repositioned, had realized the assault came from two directions. She ran into four hostiles in a narrow hallway, too narrow for the civilians to escape, too tight for cover. Sarah put herself between the hostiles and the Americans, returned fire, dropped two hostiles, took a round to her vest. Impact knocked breath from her lungs, cracked ribs. She stayed standing. Dropped the other two hostiles. "Go," she yelled to the Americans. "North exit, run." They ran. Sarah covered their escape. Her ribs screamed. Every breath felt like knives, but she kept moving. Bennett's voice crackled in her calm. "Mitchell, we're taking heavy fire. Need extraction now. Hostages moving to your position, covering their exit." Sarah fought her way through the compound, room by room, corridor by corridor, using every technique her father had taught her, every angle, every shadow, making herself a ghost. She reached the extraction point where Bennett's team was pinned down. 3 Marines, heavy fire from 12 hostiles, impossible odds. Sarah didn't hesitate. She flanked through a collapsed section of wall, got behind the hostile position, opened fire. The hostiles never saw her coming, never expected an operator they thought was dead or trapped. Sarah's fire broke their formation, gave Bennett's team the opening they needed. The Marines surged forward, cleared the remaining hostiles. The helicopter came in hot, bullets ripping through air. Sarah got the Americans aboard first, then the Marines, then the SEALs. She was last on, took one more round to her vest on the way up, second cracked rib. She collapsed into the cargo bay as the helicopter climbed. Bennett was beside her instantly. "You're hit." Vest caught it. "I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Adrenaline was fatting, pain flooding in, ribs grinding with every breath. Bennett tore open a medical kit. His hands were gentle, careful. The same hands that had dismissed her 2 weeks ago, now treating her injuries with absolute focus. "You saved my life." His voice was raw. "My entire team, the hostages, you did something I couldn't have done, something I didn't think was possible." Sarah looked at him. This man who'd told her not to cry, who'd questioned her capability, who'd learned what capability actually meant. "It's not about what's possible, Staff Sergeant. It's about what's necessary." The helicopter carried them back to base, back to safety. The mission was a success. Both Americans extracted alive. No friendly casualties. 6 operators who'd walked into hell and walked back out. When they landed, Sarah could barely walk. The adrenaline crash had hit hard. Her ribs were probably broken. Her body was shutting down. Master Chief Turner was waiting on the tarmac. He took one look at Sarah and ordered her to medical. She went without argument. Let the corpsman patch her ribs, give her pain medication, order her to rest. But that night she couldn't sleep. Lay in her hospital bed staring at the ceiling, processing everything. Turner came to visit at 300, sat beside her bed in the darkness. "Your father would be proud, Mitchell." Sarah's throat tightened. He died doing the same thing, staying when he should have pulled back, fighting when retreat made sense. He died saving 8 operators, took a round meant for someone else, held a position nobody thought could be held. Turner's voice carried weight. He died being exactly what a warrior should be. "And what's that?" "Someone willing to break so others can survive." Sarah thought about that, about her father, about Yemen, about 2 weeks of Bennett's contempt turning into respect earned through impossible action. Master Chief, Bennett asked me to teach his team Phantom Protocol, after we're cleared for duty. Turner smiled. Your father would love that. He always said the best warriors are the ones willing to learn, willing to admit they don't know everything. Over the next 3 weeks, Sarah healed. Her ribs knitted slowly, painfully, but she healed. And when she was cleared for duty, she stood in front of Bennett's Marine team. 6 men who'd watched her save their lives, who'd seen impossible become possible. She taught them everything, every angle her father had shown her, every technique of Phantom Protocol, how to think beyond size and strength, how to see opportunities in impossibility. Bennett learned fastest. He had a mind for tactics, for understanding that doctrine was a starting point, not a limitation. On the last day of training, he approached her privately. 2 weeks ago, I told you not to cry, princess. Sarah remembered, felt the echo of that moment, the contempt, the dismissal. I was wrong. Bennett's voice was steady, honest. About everything, about you, about what makes a warrior, about capability having prerequisites. People learn, Sarah said quietly. That's what matters. Your father's protocol, it's not just tactics, it's a philosophy, about seeing the world differently, about refusing to accept impossible. He built it for me because I'd never be the biggest or the strongest, but I could be the smartest, the most prepared, the most willing to see angles others missed. Bennett nodded. It works for anyone willing to think, willing to learn. Thank you for teaching us. They shook hands, not as competitors, not as skeptic and proof, as warriors who'd walked through fire together and emerged changed. That night Sarah sat in her quarters, her father's notebook on her desk, his trident pin, the worn black belt from his Krav Maga training. She thought about Bennett's journey, from contempt to respect, from assumption to understanding, from telling her not to cry to learning that strength and emotion weren't opposites. Sarah picked up a pen, opened her own notebook, and wrote, Dad, Master Chief Turner told me what you said before you died, that warriors cry. That crying doesn't make us weak, that we cry for the fallen, for the cost, for the pieces this work breaks inside us. Then we wipe our eyes and get back to work. Bennett learned that lesson, learned that try not to cry isn't about being tough. It's about timing, about processing, about being strong enough to feel everything and fight anyway. I'm taking a deployment to Afghanistan, leading a team, using everything you taught me, and when I come home I'm taking leave, going to stand at your grave, tell you everything, let myself cry as much as I need. Because you were right, Dad. Warriors aren't defined by never falling. We're defined by standing back up, not by never crying, but by wiping our eyes and continuing the mission. Thank you for preparing me, for believing in me, for teaching me that dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. 3 weeks later, Sarah boarded a C-17 for Afghanistan, Bennett and her team around her, ready for 6 months of operations. As the plane lifted off, Sarah touched her father's dog tags, worn smooth from 13 years, a reminder of legacy, of sacrifice, of love. A young Army Ranger across from her noticed, "Those your dad's, ma'am." Yes, he was a SEAL, killed in Afghanistan 2011. I'm sorry. Don't be. He died doing what he loved, protecting his team, serving his country. Sarah smiled, thought about everything, about Bennett, about Yemen, about warriors who learned to cry. He taught me the most important lesson. That try not to cry isn't about being tough, it's about timing. Warriors cry. We just choose when. We cry after the mission, after the work is done, after we've earned the right to feel everything we held back. The ranger nodded, understanding. Sarah closed her eyes. In 6 months she'd come home, take that leave, visit her mother, stand at her father's grave, cry as much as she needed. But for now, she had a mission, had warriors depending on her, had enemies who needed stopping and hostages who needed saving. For now she was Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, SEAL operator, phantom warrior, her father's daughter. She'd learned the truth her father knew. Warriors do cry. They cry for the fallen. They cry for the cost. They cry because the work breaks pieces of you that never fully heal. But then they wipe their eyes. They get back to work. They continue the mission. Not because someone told them not to cry, but because they're warriors, and the work is never done. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.